Welcome back to Hit Subscribe, where we chat with key leaders in the e-commerce space to discuss the present and future state of commerce optimization. I'm your host, Kat, content marketing strategist at Recharge. On today's episode, we chat with a pretty familiar face in the Recharge world, Danny from Bokksu, as we look back on what's changed since the last time he hopped on our podcast with Chase back in 2020, just as D2C brands were learning how to navigate the pandemic world. So I am here with Danny from Bokksu. You're actually a merchant that I've met probably the most in person. You were at ChargeX and then the AAPI event that you guys hosted, the founder event, which was exceptional, by the way. Actually, can you briefly share a bit about that event for the listeners?
Sure. So me and 3 other Asian badass consumer founder friends kind of have started organizing kind of Asian founder events. We have twice a year Asian founder retreats. And just very recently, in the beginning of May, to kick off Asian Heritage Month, we had the first ever inaugural Asian Founders Summit that we somehow found time in addition to our full-time jobs at our companies to be able to organize and bring together well over 100 founders, investors, partners, operators in the space in New York City for a day of networking, friendship making, good Asian food, of course, and panels and talks with some of the leaders in the space right now in D2C, retail, CPG, et cetera. And Recharge was a really, really wonderful sponsor and partner. And Kat came as well and hopefully had a good time and learned a lot. And we have video, Kat just loading up her plate with food and snacks. So
You did. Oh wait, there's a video of that?
Oh yeah. I'm going to show it to you later.
Oh my God, embarrassing. Actually, that's not embarrassing. That's just how I am.
No, that's how you should be. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you've been doing a lot. It looks like I feel like I always see on LinkedIn, you make a new post about ringing a bell and being featured on a TV show. You've been busy. Yeah.
It's been very busy. Yeah. I've been doing a lot more founder press and founder forward, marketing. I mean, part of it, there's actually multiple reasons. If you want, I can dive into it later, but this is very intentional. It's not necessarily it's just kind of happening to me. It's part of the strategy of growing Bokksu's brand, my brand, elevating the whole platform and everything.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's I think a perfect segue into this part that was inspired by Danny, actually, in the previous attempt for us to record this episode and it not going well. He mentioned that he was on another recording where they brought up some clips from a previous time that you spoke with them. And you actually came on our podcast. You were in our first season with Chase, I believe, back in 2020. And that was, I think, as a pandemic was happening, you were kind of several months after the pandemic had started. And so you were kind of going through all of that. So I'll actually play a clip because I'm curious about what has happened since then.
We then just moved that excess inventory into what we call the Bokksu Market, which is our e-commerce shop, where we now have about 200 SKUs permanently stocked and people can buy on demand from our e-commerce marketplace.
Okay, so again, you have been super busy. So since the last podcast episode that you did with us, you had Bokksu, Bokksu Market, there's Bokksu Boutique. You did a collaboration with Sanrio and Hello Kitty. What has changed? Can you give us an update on what kind of has happened in the last 3 years and how the Hello Kitty collab came to be and how that process was?
A lot has definitely changed over the last 3 years. So this is a really good kind of question. And even hearing that, a good example is even at the time we called it Bokksu Market, but we actually rebranded that to Bokksu Boutique, as you mentioned. So the whole Bokksu ecosystem has grown quite a lot. And we now have 4 almost unique business lines that we run across 2 storefronts. The kind of first 2 that are still run from back then in 2020 is our Bokksu Snack Box, which is kind of our core business, our subscription, our backbone that we use Recharge with. And that's still going really strong. And then number 2, we rebranded not only in name, but also in concept. So what used to be called Bokksu Market is now Bokksu Boutique because now it's become more of a curated gifting marketplace where it's fewer loose snack items and things and more a cat lovers box and a Mother's Day bundle and things that people can now gift. And these are all Japan exclusive products, items, curations. And that's what makes it really special. And it ships directly from Japan, and hence the kind of boutique branding. And then one of the other big reasons we branded that way is that we now have a third business that we launched this last year in 2022 It used to be called Bokksu Grocery. Now that's Bokksu Market. So we wanted to call it Bokksu Market, but that name was taken by us. So now we've kind of like shifted our ecosystem a little bit, because when you look at what's out there, and Bokksu Market is essentially an Asian Thrive Market or an like online Asian grocery store. Everything's called Whole Foods Market, Thrive Market, Misfits Market. Nobody has the word grocery in their names. And so we wanted to be in line with some of the kind of brands that I look up to and respect, and that we're trying to become as well, kind of on the Asian flavor side. And so that's where we have Bokksu Market. That's shelf stable and now also frozen Asian snacks and groceries, shipping nationwide in America. And that ships directly within domestic America from our own warehouse in New Jersey. That's another big change too, is that we do our own warehousing for Bokksu Market, which has been a game changer for that business. And then number 4, as you mentioned, is this official ongoing partnership and collaboration with Sanrio, who is the genius company behind Hello Kitty and all of our friends and all the different amazing characters and storytelling there is there. And that was a year-long negotiation, like kind of licensing deal, product building, and we just launched it in April officially. And so that's been a super exciting new expansion as well, because it's our first new subscription box since Bokksu Snack Box 7 years ago. Because these other 2 products are more like marketplaces, kind of e-commerce stores, but Hello Kitty and Friends / Bokksu Snack Box is our first new expansion, and customers are loving it. So we're getting really great reviews. So that's super exciting. We're going to really grow that as well.
Yeah, it's super cute. I was looking at it the other day because I got the Bokksu box, the AAPI event, and I like kept it so that my kids could try it because they love cool snacks and everything. And so I was showing them the website and they were like, we need to get this box, Hello Kitty, everything. And we're obsessed, like me and my kids. And it sounds like, I mean, even in the beginning of this conversation, you were saying all of these events that you're doing and these appearances that you're making are all very like strategic. What is the driving force behind you creating like all of these different outlets like Bokksu Market?
For me, early on, I mean, one of the reasons I chose Shopify Recharge in late 2015, when I first got started, instead of like other potential competitors out there that was more just like a subscription box e-commerce market, like type of situation, was that I always wanted to expand beyond only subscription boxes, or have multiple boxes, or have ways to create a whole ecosystem, as I'm saying, because you never know what's going to happen if you only have one product. Like the customer taste preferences might change, or the economy changes, or global shipping shuts down, or many other things. Yeah. I mean, not that I predicted COVID or anything like that specific would happen, but just that it's always safe to diversify your business, right? Just like how many people have been saying for a long time to diversify away from just Facebook ads, because if something happens in Facebook ads, D2C companies are basically screwed when they're 80% leverage on Facebook. And that really did happen as well. What's one of the reasons we diversified to YouTube influencer marketing even way before any of the Facebook stuff went down. And that really helped us stay nimble and grow during rough periods in 2021 as iOS changes. Same for business lines. If we're only the snack subscription box and that only ships from Japan, I experienced it during COVID. I had a lot of shipping issues. That makes it really hard for me to grow the business when shipping is expensive and it's hard to acquire customers when I have to charge for shipping, or stuff like that might come up. And so there's that piece, as well as just what customers are looking for. A great example is right now, I don't think I'm alone in this, but a lot of people in the subscription box space are having a difficult time. I hear a lot from other founder friends that it's hard to acquire customers. Thankfully for us, and hopefully for them too, we're not seeing an increase in churn. So our retention is still staying strong. It's about that new customer acquisition, whether it be a macroeconomic issue, whether it be a saturation issue, whatever it might be. But Bokksu Market is growing like crazy. So people are still looking for D2C. It's not like D2C is dead, as a lot of people are thinking. Like e-commerce is still rising year over year, but just what are people looking for? What are they excited for? And what we're finding right now is that Bokksu Market has like 700 SKUs. We're going to surpass 1,000 SKUs probably within a few months. And it has more of these things that we consider bridge products. Lay's potato chips from Asia. So like a ribeye steak with black truffle flavor, or a Tokyo teriyaki, Lay's potato chips, or like Japanese Doritos. Things like that are very exciting. They're delicious too. I love them as well. So like these bridge products that don't really make sense for us to put inside Bokksu Snack Box, which is really its whole purpose and mission is to support these family businesses in Japan. Like mass produced items like that wouldn't work. But for Bokksu Market, it's perfect. And so we get that from like import wholesalers, and it's pan-Asian. So like we don't have to just stick with Japan. We can get these awesome Asian snacks and products from all over the country. Also Korean instant noodles, Chinese condiments, all these different food types and flavors are rising very rapidly in America. And so this allows us to tackle and sell to and have different types of audiences across the spectrum, which we're really delighted by.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you're almost like creating your own acquisition channels almost. It's like somebody can find your snacks that are like kind of the one-off Lay's chips, for example, but then they'll also be exposed to the Bokksu brand overall. And then if they're interested in like trying a box, for example, or vice versa, like someone tries your box and then they're like, whoa, I love this. And I love Asian snacks. And they're like, let me go find these one-off snacks. You're kind of creating that ecosystem.
That's exactly it. You go pitch to investors for me, Kat. That's exactly what we're building, is because like, where can we find the cheaper, more efficient customer acquisition? Because in general, all of our customers are people that are interested in Asian flavors or international flavors in general. And they don't necessarily only care about Japanese things. And so what we're finding, and in fact, a lot of Americans and Westerners, it's hard for them to even differentiate between them. And that's not a bad thing. We're here to help bridge and educate too. And so we acquire them in Bokksu Market, and then we can cross-sell them on the box, or vice versa, or in boutique if they want to gift things to loved ones or for themselves. And so there's a lot of different ways we can get people excited. And same with Hello Kitty Box. Like the plan for that is to target the fandom of Hello Kitty, which is its own separate, unique, amazing community that now we can then cross-sell them on all these other flavors too. And so it's about finding the best ways to speak to different audiences, but then bringing them into the Bokksu family, and all that.
That's super cool. And that's really smart. And also that makes sense to be able to diversify in that way. And also target that audience that loves Sanrio, Hello Kitty. It is like almost a nostalgic experience for a lot of the older generation. So you're kind of seeing acquisition for that generation. And then also like the newer folks who are finding access to your products through like social media, which also I will play something on that because that is kind of the next question that I had. So
sure.
Everything you're saying is very like smoothly leading into the next thing. So I'm always like, wait, did he just answer the question I was about to ask? Anyways, I'm going to play it.
We started contacting and working with YouTube creators. We tried Instagram a little bit. It's not really for us. I think our product really requires video and eating and tasting and talking. So we started contracting with, kind of partnering with YouTube creators to send them boxes. We have like a post-purchase attribution survey. And we were like seeing people write TikTok and we're like, wait, what's going on?
So you were kind of talking about how you were sending boxes to YouTubers, which you already mentioned also. Instagram wasn't really working out for you. You felt like it wasn't probably an effective method for your kind of product. And then also you started diving into TikTok because of like a viral video that somebody created that it kind of outperformed your ad team, etc. What has kind of changed or not changed in your marketing strategy in the last 3 years?
For Snackbox subscription, YouTube influencer marketing was what like grew us like crazy in 2020 and 2021. For both of those years, we continued growing. We ended up like tripling our growth. And so it was pretty awesome, which then led me to be able to raise the Series A in 2021, which was also really amazing. And I really do credit a lot of that because we were one of the first in our space to enter into YouTube influencer marketing. Now we have copycat companies copying what we do, copying our strategy, whatever. At the time, because we were new, had kind of all these fresh audiences, super excited working with the best YouTubers at good prices. And even when the iOS changes happened in mid 2021, because we were like 70% on YouTube, we weren't so impacted because retargeting doesn't matter when it's your followers on this channel. Having said that, in 2022 and beyond, the whole space got a little saturated. And I think with reopening after COVID, people weren't watching YouTube as much at home. And so it just like became a little less effective. So now we're a lot more picky about who we work with there. We also I think a lot of advertisers rushed into the space as well. So CPMs went up. But having said that, we then started looking at TikTok very heavily because of that exact thing that happened to us in 2020. And have to report that on an organic side for our brand, we had, I believe, well over 200,000 followers on TikTok, which is a very difficult thing to do for a brand. And so we really researched and looked, leaned into strategy. Does that convert to sales though? That's much more difficult to pinpoint and attribute. I think mostly not, but it is helpful to have that presence so that when we advertise or when we work with TikTokers or when we like in post things, there's a bit of an audience for that already. So at least we have that base. And it also depends on the product. What we're finding is the snack box may not work well on TikTok, but now we believe that Hello Kitty and Bokksu Market items may work well on TikTok, because what we're finding is TikTok audiences are liking our products, but maybe the fandom isn't strong enough, or maybe it's just too expensive. Like a lot of the comments are like, oh, the snack box is great, but it's too expensive for us, because everybody's kind of young on TikTok. And so that's where Bokksu Market works out well, because everything's priced very reasonably as if you're in an Asian grocery store, and then it has free shipping nationwide. And so now we can maybe use that to then gain audiences there. This is what I mean, not only in terms of different audiences that we can acquire, but also different channels we can use to acquire these audiences based on the product we have, because it has different price points, kind of unique selling points, things like that, that will capture different people.
Yeah, that's cool. And I remember you guys talking about this at the API event, which also I feel like I recounted that event so many times because I gained a lot of insight, and I had to write my notes after so I wouldn't forget everything. And then I memorized it. So I just remember everything that was said. And you mentioned that as well, like how you really relied on your YouTube influencer strategy because they own their fan base. So they didn't really lose that with the changes in iOS security and Facebook ads, etc. It was really cool. I was going to play another thing, but I'll just say what you said because it leads into the next question. But Chase had basically asked you what advice you would give to somebody in the startup phase, like the 0 to 100 to 1,000. And your advice, actually, I'll just play that one part.
Play it. I would love to hear it. I don't remember.
This was your advice.
The early phase, in my opinion, is definitely don't spend anything on marketing.
Still the same?
Yeah, that's definitely still the same. I mean, in terms of paid media, don't be silly, especially now. It's even more true now than before. Because in 2020, at least Facebook ads worked. You could potentially create a viral ad that would go, hit a lot of people up and get low CPAs. But now, definitely don't spend unless it's efficient. But I would actually take it even a step further. Advice, what I would give nowadays to people is what is this problem you're solving? What is this product you're creating, the service? And is it the right fit for D2C? Because what sells well in D2C now is totally different from what it was before. And this might change again in the future. But back then, when it was really easy to acquire customers on a cheap basis, it was possible to have almost single SKU companies where you're just selling keto puffs, or you're just selling one thing and you sell that through your Shopify store and you just Facebook ads on it. Now, what I'm seeing out in the space, that's really, really tough because you can't build that AOV high enough to make it worth shipping, to make the CAC worth it, because CAC is more expensive.
Yeah.
So and there's a lower chance of reorder because you only sell one thing. And so what does still work online is subscriptions. That is different. It's that changes, that makes it into more of a membership, as well as marketplaces. Because then it's easier to build a basket, easier to hit the AOV and free shipping tiers, easier for customers to come back if you're releasing new products all the time. And that's what is working in the space. But if you're just selling, once again, one thing, D2C is a really rough spot. Consider if D2C just have it for brand building and then maybe selling at retail, which is, having a huge renaissance right now. And so there's many other ways and channels one can sell products still and, be a merchant, but is this the right channel is what everybody needs to figure out before they just dive in and spend a lot of money.
That's really good advice. I feel like that's come up a lot in conversations, even in my conversations with Kristen, who you know quite well, the balance between D2C and retail and when D2C is right and when retail is right, et cetera. So that's really cool. I think to end off the conversation, I normally ask the people that I'm talking to more of a personal question. And this is somewhat related to what you just said, but what advice would you give 2020 Danny, knowing what you know now? Doesn't have to be even work related, but if you could sit in front of Danny of November 2020 and be like, hey, in the next 3 years, here's the advice I have for you. What would you tell yourself?
So what probably top of mind for me is in 2020, I had 8 employees only, especially because when COVID first hit, I had to lay off 3-ish, 4-ish people. And so that was pretty significant at that time. We only had 12. And then when we grew a lot and then I raised the Series A, we all of a sudden had to start rapidly hiring. And we ended up getting up as large as 40 something people at one point last year or something, let's say, right? And what I would definitely tell myself is get ready for the people issues. Get ready for all the things that come through as you scale a company. That stuff is real, and being able to deal with it well as a empathetic, but still strong. Because the most important thing is managing your team's culture and your company and like not being too nice. If you're too nice and you don't lay off the person when you should because they're not performing anymore, they can poison the well. There's a lot of negative side effects. Also, like if you hire the wrong people, sometimes that just happens, but you have to make that decision quickly to let them go. You can't give too many people too many chances because they could end up doing a lot of damage to your company long term. And that is a really hard lesson. A lot of founders don't learn. And thankfully, I had good advisors, mentors, investors, like executive team that have helped me through a lot of stuff. And we're in a very strong position now. But there was some rough spots in the last few years about hiring and growing the team. And you eventually will need to go through that as you scale a company.
That's tough. That's good advice. I feel like that was a really great recap of everything that's kind of happened in the last little bit. I'm sure there's more. You guys are always innovating and doing a lot, especially you. So congrats. Honestly, congrats. Like it's always a pleasure talking to you and seeing kind of the things that you're focusing on and that you're worrying about, but also like excited about. So anyways, thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure to speak with you, Kat, as well as the Recharge folks. I love you guys.
We want to thank Danny once more for joining us. You can find Bokksu at bokksu.com. If you liked what you heard, make sure to hit subscribe on whatever platform you're listening from, and check us out at rechargepayments.com/hit subscribe for our latest episodes.